Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover Laval. Get out of the big city and experience a construction zone-free test drive. There is such a thing.
It's episode 4 of season 2, the Standing By podcast. I'm Terry DeMonte. Hi, that's Ted Bird.
How do you do?
I do well, sir. How are you?
Well, you know.
Are you enjoying my visit to Montreal, Mr.
I'm
Bird?
enjoying it very much. We've been making the rounds.
Yes.
And today we went up and visited our title sponsors.
Yes.
Jaguar Land Rover Laval. Every time Terry comes in from out of town to record the podcasts, I always use that as an excuse to say to them, hey, you know, what if I take one of your cars and drive Terry all around town in it, and we'll post on social media and talk about it on the podcast? Yes. And they go, okay. No, they don't do that. Adrian, their marketing lady, is very generous and forthcoming. And this particular time around, she set us up with a Land Rover Discovery Sport.
There's an elegance to this vehicle, Ted.
There's an absolute elegance to this vehicle, but much like the Defender that we drove during season 1, I'm going to need to spend about 30 hours in a flight simulator to figure out how to operate everything. There's a lot to learn on these vehicles. I mean, you still put it in drive and away you go, and the blinkers are in the same place and the headlights and all the rest of it, but modern technology in cars is it's something else. Well, and this thing's got all the bells and whistles.
That's where the great staff there would come in handy. They're so friendly there. This morning, as soon as we walked in, we got a big smile and a nice coffee, and you'll get the same kind of treatment we do if you head up there. JaguarLaval.ca and LandRoverLaval.ca. Like everyone else in these times, they're experiencing supply chain issues, but you can still go up and shop for a new car and order a new car, or you can go into the pre-owned CPO, they call it, certified pre-owned showroom, and they get some nice vehicles in there as well. And if you buy a certified pre-owned Jaguar or Land Rover from Jaguar Land Rover Laval, they bring it back up to spec and sell it to you with the original warranty, 160,000 kilometers. They do it right. They do it right, and we're proud to have them back as a title sponsor for season 2. As we discussed in previous seasons, I'm now a resident of British Columbia, and I got retired and thought it was time for a new chapter, so that's where we are. So you get to relive and when you come back to visit, re-enjoy some of the quote unquote joys of living in Montreal, and we experienced one today. Ted said, why don't we go up and see our old friend Laughing George at Cafe Kamenitsa on Fairmont. Fairmont is where I talked about this all the time on the radio. I refer to it as the million-calorie march. You start, if you come into town, you start at Walensky's, and then you walk from a Walensky's, and you can either go and have a beautiful ice cream cone at Kemkoba, or you can go to Dragaria Fina and get some of the unbelievable homemade gnocchi and move down from there and then go to the bagel place.
I was going to say there's got to be bagels along that route.
Yeah, you go into the bagel spot, and then you go down from there. You can stop and get some unbelievable sausage and nice steak at Chez Vito, and then you stop at Cafe Kamenitsa and you have Bugatti, and then you get a wheelbarrow and somebody will take you home.
That Bugatti, Laughing George used to bring the Bugatti to the radio station when we worked at Shome, and that's the best dessert I've ever had. And Poseidon, who's our producer, you must be familiar with Bugatti, the Greek dessert, obviously.
Of course, it's fucking delicious.
Do you have a favorite Bugatti place or a person who makes your favorite Bugatti? Like, does anyone in your family make it? Your mom, your yaya?
No, it's a little complicated to make. But I don't really have a favorite place. Like everywhere you go, it's fucking
Let me
fantastic.
recommend Kamenitsa. When we went in there this morning, Adriana had just taken them out of the oven.
Adriana or Antoinetta?
I thought it was Adriana.
I thought it was Antoinette.
Now look what
I'm
we've
sure
done.
she'll appreciate
But the rule is the fresher the better. So
Yeah, well, this was right out of the
fresh.
oven. It was still warm.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And how would you
Unbelievable.
describe it? It's custard inside a flaky
Yeah, Fido pastry.
crust. Yeah,
it's Fido pastry
with
and
powdered sugar on top and cinnamon.
Yeah, the cinnamon and the custard is like.
You can hear yourself getting fatter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of the things I struggle with because you come to town and you say, well, I got to be careful and
And as you said, it's one of the great joys
Yeah.
of coming
Well,
back. And
my old friend Leslie Chesterman said this all the time, still says it on Twitter, it's really without the restaurants, man, Montreal would be in trouble without the international reputation of the food here. And it's really part of what makes it great because, the other parts like driving on the Met, dodging the orange cones. And today we drove down the boulevard in Westmount, and I thought my teeth were going to come out.
the richest neighborhood in the country, and the roads are a mess.
And that fucking road has been like that for years and years and years and years. And I lived in Westmount for a couple of chapters in my Montreal run, and I paid the tax bill on those homes in Westmount. So somebody knock on the door and tell them to repave the boulevard. But I also wonder if there's even a point to it because the roads are such a mess in Montreal. And when you leave the city, like when you go to other jurisdictions, I know in BC we have the climate on our side, but man,
But
it's
even
jarring.
when you cross the border from Quebec into Ontario,
Yes.
like it's noticeable.
Yep.
It goes from glickety glackety glickety
Yeah.
like literally, it's literally noticeable when you cross the border.
Ted picked me up at the train, and as soon as we got into his car, he was telling me he just had the suspension redone. We hit a massive pothole, and I thought to myself, how are we ever? I don't know. It's le plus ça change, as they say. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is, hey, hotels. I got a surprise for you. Yesterday, I went back to my hotel after being out of it all day. Now, I must give a caveat to this story. I'm not staying at the Ritz. Normally when my wife and I travel, we like to travel and spend a little bit of extra money and stay in a nice hotel. Now that I'm retired and I'm here for the podcast, all I need is a clean crash
Yeah,
pad.
but you're also not staying at Chez Les Bibittes. You're staying at an international brand hotel that should have a respectable quality about it.
Rhymes with Schlomotel. Anyway, so I went yesterday, and I had booked a room from Monday to Saturday, and went yesterday, and they hadn't tended to the room. So I went downstairs, and I said, housekeeping missed my room. Housekeeping? Oh, sir, you have to request housekeeping now that we're in COVID. And companies are using COVID for an excuse for everything. And I got a surprise for you. I'm not staying in a hotel for 6 nights, whether it's Chez Bibitte or the Schlomotel. I'm sure at the big hotels, they haven't tried to do away with housekeeping to save money. But a lot of companies are using COVID to try and save money and think we don't notice.
Using it as an excuse.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said to the woman, I said, you have to tell me now, the woman at the front desk, I said, you have to tell me now, if housekeeping isn't part of the deal for 6 nights, tell me now, and I want my money back and I'm leaving. And she said, no, we just have to write it down and make a special request.
A special request.
Yeah, a special request.
To clean your room.
To clean the room.
And make your bed.
Now, and I don't live like a pig. I don't. I'm a grown-ass man. I know how to look after myself. But that's one of the things about that COVID changed. Companies, I believe, they recognized an opportunity to think, how much money could we save on daily housekeeping? And I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Well, I think that was well gotten off of your chest. Listen, I understand being frugal, and I understand cutting corners and saving where you can.
Yes.
But when you're when your business is hospitality,
Yes.
and you're cutting corners and saving money but being less hospitable, I think you're kind of defeating the purpose of the exercise.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm also going to, I think, if there is a season 3, I'm going to rethink my my travel plans because perhaps it's time for me to consider maybe a little extra money in the hotel budget. Because, I mean, I'm not there all day, right? I need a clean place to crash. That's
You can
it.
stay at my place.
All right, thanks.
I got one of those mattresses, one of those air mattresses that you blow up, but there's a slow leak in it.
Okay.
So about 2 or 3 times during the night, you got to turn it back on. Whee! And it wakes up the whole building. Whee!
And is there any extra charge for the motorhead?
The Motorhead from downstairs,
Yes.
from Buddy downstairs?
Yes.
No, and you get treated to that sometimes at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. He likes to crank up the Motorhead and have a little Motorhead festival.
Yeah.
He's going to have a fucking Motorhead festival, all right.
I'll give you your Motorhead. It's because Motorhead is not for every man's taste.
No, it's not. And I tried to impress upon him, this is my downstairs neighbor, he looks like a carny. He looks like the guy who would be running the tilt-a-whirl at the Bill Lynch Midway or whatever. There's a New Brunswick reference, if ever there was one. Was the Bill Lynch Midway up here?
No, not that I recall.
Anyway, he likes to lift weights and turn Motorhead up to 11 at any time of the day or night.
Mostly night.
Yeah, whatever's convenient for him.
Yeah.
And this is how loud he turns it up. He's not above me. He's underneath me. But the sound is still, like the sound comes up right into my bedroom.
It's very courteous.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah. And I suggested to him that perhaps he might want to invest in some ear pods, headphones.
Yes.
They're all the rage.
Are they?
Oh, the kids wear them. You see, you see them going down the street, listening to the hipper and the hopper with their little earphones.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, he didn't seem too interested. So you know what I did last night?
No.
He put on Motorhead, and so I got out of bed, and I put on my dress shoes, big, heavy dress shoes, and just started walking around the apartment.
I'm going to suggest musical soundtracks. You know, the soundtrack to Mary Poppins, the soundtrack to
I've
Frozen.
done, one time.
Have you tried to go ahead?
Except what I made the mistake of, I put on my music really loud, but I picked music that he would probably like.
Oh, okay. See,
like I put on, what was the band that Slash... Velvet Revolver.
Yes,
I put on some Velvet Revolver. I put on some Van Halen. Yeah. But I think you're onto something there.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Or maybe disco. He looks like the type of guy that disco would really piss him off.
Got a suggestion, Poseidon?
Or you can explain to him that a brand new set of 4 winter tires are much more expensive than AirPods as well.
Really?
Why would I do that?
What do you mean? Well, because
price comparison.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
you're saying that AirPods are not expensive.
Well, compared to 4 tires.
Yeah. Well, they're not expensive at all. Or I could beat him to death.
Slash his tires.
Oh,
I see what you mean.
Okay,
yes.
I see what you're getting at. Okay. I got it now. It's like a subtle threat.
Yeah, okay.
I got it. Are you experienced in that world? Okay.
I know people.
Very good. Yeah, I know. You know a guy.
I know a guy who knows a guy.
I got a guy.
No, I think I would. You know what? I actually thought of your experience with your upstairs
Jesus
neighbors,
Christ.
but that was well taken. Can you tell that story?
I think I
because that
can.
was well taken care of.
I think I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was living in a duplex in what is now part of Montreal called the Sheen, but back then it was Ville St. Pierre. Boring part of the story, doesn't matter. And I was in a duplex, so I was on the main floor, and I had a really lovely neighbor who lived upstairs. She was a very tiny woman who, was quiet and didn't. The only thing I ever heard, she had one of those trampolines, the exercise trampolines. Yeah. And on the weekends, I would hear, And one day she moved out. She came downstairs to say goodbye, and I said, "Oh, you've been a lovely neighbor," and da 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 da. And the place stayed empty for maybe, I guess, a month or two. And then one night at around, I guess, 11:30, and I was doing morning radio at the time, and my wake up call was 4:00 or 4:30 in the middle of the night. And at around 11:30, I could hear.
And
I mean,
of the ice and snow.
And I thought to myself, okay, that's really loud. Like, I can hear Zeppelin singing. That means they've got it really loud. So I let it go. And the next night, sure enough, again, and not for an hour, not for 10 minutes, all night long. So I called the landlord and I said, you know, these guys, this, my new neighbor. And he said, well, there are 3 guys. I said, okay. And he said, I don't think any of them work. I said, why did you rent them the apartment? He said, well, it's a long story, but, you know, I'll see if I can get them to be quiet. Went on for weeks and weeks and weeks, every night, and every night it was Zeppelin. So I finally went up there, I knocked on the door, and they gave me the old, yeah, sure, man, we'll turn it down. And I went back downstairs, and they turned it up and had a good laugh. And I called the cops. The cops said, I can't do anything for you. And every night and I'm not kidding you. I'm telling you, every night, night after night, Monday through Sunday, every single night, they were a particular fan of Zeppelin.
They liked the immigrant song, did they?
Fucking night. And so I moved my bed into the basement. I had a finished basement there. And all that did was, it got a little, so I thought to myself, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I went upstairs and I said, guys, and I yelled, you know, how many fucking times do I have to tell you? And they laughed at me and slammed the door in my face and told me to go fuck myself. So a couple of days later, I'm having lunch with a guy, and he said, Christ, you look like shit. Are you okay? I said, I haven't slept in weeks. He said, what's wrong? I told him the story, and he said, I can fix that for you. And I said, well, what do you mean you can fix that for you? He said, I got a guy. I got a guy for that. I said, what do you mean you got a guy for that? He said, well, do you want your problem to go away or don't you? He said, you look like shit. You know, with your job, you're going to have to get some sleep. Anyway, long story longer, I went to meet with the guy. And I met him, and it's just like in the movies. Just like in the movies. I met a guy, and he was sitting in the corner, in a dark corner of a bar with a beer in front of him. And I extended my hand, and he didn't extend his, and he said to me, sit down. And I sat down, and he said, I hear you're having trouble. And I said, yeah. And he said, and now I'm realizing what I've got myself into. Because let's just say that this guy didn't look like a salesman at Burke's. He was a guy.
You know who I'm picturing in my head? Mike from Better Call Saul.
Yes. So I explained it to him, and he said, yeah, I can make that go away for you. And I said, well, how are you going to do that? And he said, none of your fucking business. And I said, well, I was like, I don't want anybody to get hurt, mister. And he was saying, he said to me, you don't need to know what you don't need to know. And all I needed was $500. And I thought, that's a pretty good deal. And at the last minute, I thought to myself, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I thanked him and I left. I just thought to myself, I can't, this is how desperate I was. This is how desperate you become when people laugh at you and they laugh in your face, and the authorities can't help you. The landlord couldn't help me.
You were helpless.
I was helpless.
Yeah.
I was helpless, and I was sleep deprived, and I had no recourse. I didn't know what to do. And I came this close to dancing with the devil. And at the last minute, I thought, I can't, because if you meet a guy about a thing, now the guy knows you, and maybe you become indebted to a guy with the thing.
But for $500, he wasn't going to kill them. Obviously,
no, I don't know. Obviously not. But it was unseemly, and it But that's
I would have been. Have you still got his number? I got a job for him. Have you still got his number?
For the life of me, I thought to myself, it was so tempting because I could see that bastard's face. Just before the door slammed. And him laughing at me, saying, "Go fuck yourself," and slamming the door in my face, laughing at me.
So how did the situation eventually resolve itself?
They didn't pay their rent.
Oh, okay. So see you later.
So they weren't there very long. And you know what? The landlord said to me, "Come upstairs. I want to show you something." And it eventually drove me out of that area. I ended up leaving there and moving out and going into a house in Bay d'Urfé because I thought I don't want to live with people anymore. He took me upstairs to show me the house. There were holes in the wall. They had 3 stereos, no stove, and 2 fridges, and no jobs. And they had
2 fridges for the beer.
Yeah, and they had destroyed the apartment. And they had, I don't know if you remember this from high school. You put gum in cigarette foil. You take the cigarette foil out of. And you put the
throw them on the ceiling.
The ceiling was covered in that, and the place stunk like smoke. And that's when I found out that landlords, when you talk about renting houses and stuff like that, that's what a lot of landlords are up against. But
it's terrible. I hate people like that.
Yeah.
What
would you have done? Would you have danced with the devil, Poseidon?
Oh, no. I would have turned into the devil. I would have kicked the door down. I'd be like, fucking slam the door in my face.
Yeah, but you're a big guy.
Yeah.
Mind you, you're a big guy too.
I've already done something like that for a friend in the past.
Have you? Have you been the guy?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, maybe you can come over and take care of the carny for me.
Oh, it'll be my pleasure, Ted.
The carny, after I stomped on the floor, he came upstairs and banged on my door, and he's standing there with no shirt on because he's a tough guy. Yeah. But when I opened the door, and I was 6 feet tall and 215 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't think he was quite expecting that. No. So, I still got the, what the fuck is your problem?
Right.
And I said, nothing. I'm just keeping time to the music.
Right.
And, turn it the fuck down.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I'd pay the $5. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about we bring our guest in?
Let's do that, shall we?
All right. Yes. Oh, that's correct. Thank you. Poseidon is reminding us that it is time to remind you and welcome our new sponsor.
The UPS store. At the upsstore.ca, David Drucker is the Grand Poobah, the chief cook and bottle washer? He's a longtime friend of ours.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
And was gracious enough to jump on board as a sponsor for the podcast. David is the proprietor of the UPS Store Canada, the franchisor, I guess. Over 350 locations in Canada, 5,000 across North America. And they do it all, eh?
Oh,
whether like on a personal or professional level,
Yeah.
if you have stuff that you need done,
Yeah.
the UPS store can handle it.
If you're a small business owner, they can look after everything with shipping, shredding documents, sending faxes, labels, packing. They look after everything. And even if you're not a small business, even if you've got something you want to send to Aunt Mary over across the pond, they'll look after that too. They'll pack it, make sure it's properly packed and shipped and taken care of. It really is a one-stop shop to fix all your problems. The upsstore.ca.
Look, it's Tommy Schnurmacher.
How are you?
Fine, I am fine. How you doing?
Oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. I'm thrilled. We should explain that, for people who don't know who this man is, and I find that hard to believe. Tommy is an author, broadcaster, writer, speaker.
Yeah, that about covers.
Are you a boulevardier?
Yes. And a raconteur. I'm also a raconteur.
He is that. He's an excellent raconteur.
I've got so much to talk to you about because we want to talk about the book. I want to talk about the martinis in Venice. I want to talk about what you've been. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know what's great about this, Tommy, about podcasting is there's no boss standing at the door. There's no timer.
I know. I find that astonishing. I did a podcast for a while, and I kept saying, "Look, well, I've only got like 10 seconds.
Yes.
But there's only 12 seconds."
Yeah.
No, there isn't. No.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you friggin' say. I still haven't quite gotten to the F word yet. But I figure, it's a much more relaxed. It's a much cooler, relaxed atmosphere. Sure.
Let's start with, I retired. You were very kind. You said some nice things when I went out the door, and then I ran down the highway, and I haven't seen you in a while. What have you been doing? Because I know you love to travel, and I'm wondering what you've been up to, because we haven't been in daily touch. What have you been up to during the lockdown?
I've been quite busy during the lockdown. First of all, I did an audio version of the book. We can get to that later. How difficult that was. How difficult that was to do. Can you I'm going to narrate my own book, of course, right? I mean, I'm in the radio business. I'm not going to hire a narrator, but you have to sit there for 3 hours, what we're doing now, and read from the book, and keep reading and keep talking. It took 4 hours. 4 days in a row to get the whole thing done in an unair-conditioned studio. Right. And the one good thing about it, if I made a little mistake, what's the author going to say, right?
But you know what? Nobody else could do that book except you. Nobody else could read that. I don't think anyone else could do any Tommy Schnurmacher book except you, because the style is so unique and it's so you. Well, yes, I don't care if it's Robert De Niro. I'm still going to be sitting there going, no, that doesn't work. It's got to be Tommy.
Especially for Mom's Hungarian accent. Yes. But I did. I mean, since the. I absolutely chose the right time to retire. Boy, did I get out of there while the getting was good. First of all, the second I got out of there, I did tons of travel. When I retired, I went to Israel, Ireland, and Italy, and those are just the eyes. I went all over the place. I absolutely loved that. Now, when COVID hit, right, I was doing a book tour. I was in Vancouver, and I was in New York City, actually, right at the start of the pandemic, and they were saying at the time, you don't have to worry. There's no COVID in New York City. There was a little outbreak, they said, in New Rochelle, but it's not in New York City. I'm thinking to myself, it takes 20 minutes to drive past JFK Airport. Right? You're driving. You're still at the airport for 20 minutes. So of all of those planes landing from every city on Earth with hundreds of thousands of passengers, not one of them had COVID. What a miracle that must be, that there's only this outbreak in New Rochelle. So I knew that was nonsense. Came home, so I stocked up on tuna just at the right time, because I'd run out of the supply I stocked up on for Y2K. Right? So it was perfect. And then what happened for travel, because I missed the travel a lot, I found this site called Heygo, Heygo, which is like an international travel site where guides take you on tours of a city, and it's a live tour for an hour. So let's say it's 2:00, so it's Budapest. So you join in, and the guy's walking through Budapest. He's telling you on your right, on your left, and you can chat back and forth with him.
Oh, really? You can chat?
Yes, you can chat and ask him questions back and forth. It's live. It's happening. Like it's 2:00. If it's 2:00 here, it's probably 8:00 in Budapest. So and he's telling you, and there's different tours, and it's of every city and town on Earth. They've done Montreal and Quebec City and London, Paris, Venice. I was on a Vaporetto tour because I was going through withdrawal, not going to Venice.
Yeah.
And so that was a great little way to travel. And there was one particular trip that I really liked. It was the Scottish Highlands, right, where they walk on a narrow path next to a mountain that goes straight down, and this narrow path goes straight uphill, and it's craggy and rocky, and I'm holding on to my chair in my living room because I'm worried about falling off the chair, thinking, how would I be on this actual tour?
Yeah.
So of course it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
For an hour, he's huffing, the guide's huffing and puffing, but what do I care? And it's great because you can leave a tip if you want, $5, $10, or just if you can't afford it, then you just you hype it, talk about it, or on social media, etc. So I did a lot of that.
What's the site again, Tom?
Heygo.
Heygo,
Heygo.
Okay.
And I did it so often, the two guys who started it wanted to speak to me about it and ask my advice because I showed up so often on it. So I love doing that. I do that quite often.
Is it free or do you pay? It is, eh?
Free,
yeah.
free.
So how do they make their money? Advertisements?
They make their money of the tips. They get 40% of the tips, and the guides get 60%.
Oh, okay. So you do like an Interact Transfer or whatever.
Yeah, PayPal,
oh, interesting.
whatever. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And if you want, and if you don't, you don't have to. And there's more and more guides. They don't pay the guides. The guides have to get their own equipment, that whatever that thingamajig is that they walk around with.
Right.
It takes the pictures, the videos of everything, and it's live. So I did a lot of that. I did a lot of promotion for the book. And I always like to have an addiction.
Yes.
Of some kind. Like I really do. Like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you know what those addictions
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
No, but after. I'm talking after.
Yes.
Right, when the addictions got a little different. There's Twitter. Of course, I still have that and have to, yank the needle out of my arm every now and then just put it down. But there's a new one I found, and that's auctions. Like live auctions. Yeah. Now, in auctions, you usually have to go to auctions. Now you don't have to go. You can do it virtually online. And if you buy something in the United States, after they've added the auction tax and the regular tax and the exchange and the delivery here, it'll be 10 times whatever you thought it was. So you can't do that. You can't. Well, you can if you're very wealthy, but other than that, you can't. But there are local auction houses, a couple in Montreal, Hotel des Encans, and another one called Maison des Encans, and they have auctions like every couple of weeks. And this is what's interesting about it. Every now and then, all the prices start at $15. And sometimes they go up, and sometimes they don't. So sometimes you get a nice 24 by 36-inch beautiful oil painting for $15.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, no.
Oh my
so even
God.
if you add the 15%, but now I look like, my house looks like hoarders. Right?
I was going to say.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're at a place in our life where we don't need more stuff.
Oh.
But it's all, the joy is in the bidding.
Yes.
Right?
Are you going to get it? Or are you not?
Yeah.
And also what happens is that bastard, I'm not going to let him get that for $20. I don't need that statue of a shepherd that's really a lamp. I don't need that. But if it's only $15, I can't let him have it.
Do you see the other bidders and do you see the auctioneer?
No, you do not.
And is the auctioneer one of the
No,
eh?
any of that. You just get click, bump.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just
Oh,
sound
okay.
effects.
So
It's just sound effects.
So there's
And then
it's nonverbal.
No, it's nonverbal, and then you have to go actually pick up the stuff. Like you pay for it, and then you have to go pick it up. But what's really fun about it is you get a lot of nice stuff. And the reason this happened is I decided, since I wasn't traveling so much, I figured another habit is fun, looking at real estate. Not you don't have to buy anything.
You're
Just
so
look.
good at this.
Just look at real estate. Just check houses. Like look at condos. Look at the houses, etc. Some that you'd think about buying, some that you wouldn't. But it's nice to look.
And you can take the virtual tours.
Right. And what's more fun than an open house and seeing how other people live and how they decorate and everything. So so I was doing a lot of that, and then I decided maybe we should have a country place. And you know what's happening with country places in and around Montreal? Like you remember the old days in real estate? Somebody would say, let's say they have a house that's asking we're talking old days, asking like $200,000. Right. So I'll offer you 180.
Yes.
Right. And then maybe it'll be 190, and it'll be this back and forth game.
Yeah.
No. That's not the way it works. In the Laurentians, the asking price will be $299. And they'll have 14 offers on the first day. This is Montreal. It's not Toronto. This is not Vancouver.
Yeah.
They'll have 14 offers, and it'll go so 420, 430, 440, 450. And so one of the ones that was $399 actually went for $500.
First of all, I'm surprised you even found anything at $299 in the Laurentians.
Well,
and you're old enough to remember when. Oh yeah, my parents bought a cottage in Saint-Essy-de-Côte.
Yeah.
And they paid $18,000 for it.
Exactly.
You know?
So anyway, we did a lot of that all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And when we saw it, we're not going to make these kind of offers, but it was fun looking. So we looked all over in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu. Gorgeous area, St. Marc-sur-Richelieu on the river there. Absolutely gorgeous. And then you have to check, is it flood zone or not, right? Oh, no wonder it's $50 for this house. There could be a problem with it. And then we found some nice place. We're looking, and I found a nice place in Roxton Pond, which is in Eastern Townships, which is like like on the water, etc. And it was reasonable, and it was very small.
Isn't that where they've got the open door policy for illegal immigrants? Or am I thinking of somewhere else?
Roxham Road.
Oh, okay,
Roxham
sorry.
Road. Somebody else was telling me that. Well, that's why it was a deal, because... No, it's nowhere near there. Anyway, so...
Sorry, my bad.
I've been doing a lot of, like looking at that. And so also, if you're going to get a cottage, if you're going to rent a cottage, because I was a big Airbnb fan, if you're going to rent a cottage, right... you got to furnish it with something, right?
Right.
Right. So then, of course, you have to find the right pieces, and like you see these absurd things, like see a magnificent couch, and it's $15. It's like
so. This is where
it won't end up being $50.
The auctions
go to
come in handy.
Yeah. So the auctions absolutely come in, but you really have to control yourself, to get the emotion out of it, because you get carried away and buy stuff that you absolutely don't need at all.
Well, the reverse is true, because I would not own what I own today if it wasn't for Tommy. My very first house that I bought, I didn't buy my first house until I was 40, and it required Tommy to coach me through the terror I felt about buying my first place. And what did you say to me? You said, "You fucking idiot."
I remember seeing it was a gorgeous house. It was a gorgeous house on St. Catherine Street. And
was it Brian Gallery's
Brian
whole place?
Gallery's
Yes.
house, yeah.
Filled with spectacular art, stunning. A basement, main floor, second floor, another floor, floors here on the left, right, backyards, terrace. It just went on and on. And it was like an obscene price.
Oh, it was it was 3 something. Yeah,
3 or 4. And so I said, Terry, let me go look at it. I'll go look at it. So I went with my agent. We went to look at the house. And what is he waiting for? What is he waiting for? She told me. So then I went to you and said, what are you waiting for?
Yeah. You gave me the right push.
I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Find a pen.
Yes.
And sign whatever they put in front of you. Take it.
And
It's gorgeous.
I did, and because I bought that house, the whole that's why I own the home I own today. I want to know what you think, because after I was going to say stepped away from the mic, after I was pushed away from the mic.
Yeah.
Coming outside of the radio business, and we should preface this by saying Tommy was in the radio business for 1,000 years, like I was. I started, when you're outside it looking back in, it's a different look for me. I look back in, I'm looking at it thinking, Jesus Christ, like what's become of the industry? And not just because, we worked in another era, but I want to know what your take is as you look back in or you listen.
Okay.
What do you think has happened?
First of all, I have to say, when I was there, I did a talk shows for like 20 years, a talk show, right? I was a talk shows for 20 years, and I absolutely loved it. I thoroughly enjoyed it and voicing my opinion on everything. Recently, I was asked to speak at a group at a synagogue, and I was speaking about the book, my memoir, and they liked it, and they said, "Why don't you come back?" And I said, well, I'm not going to talk about the same thing. They said, no, well, you can talk about something else. Why don't you talk about the Quebec language law? I said, I'd rather have a root canal. I said, the thought of it, right, of going through the whole thing, because, there's not one syllable or sentence or paragraph that I haven't said at some point, or I said or agreed with or disagreed with over decades. So, you got to, been there, done that over and over again. So, I didn't want to, I got tired of that, didn't want to do it. So I was very happy to leave radio behind. And when I was going to retire, they were saying, aren't you going to miss it at all? You're going to miss it? I said, no. Whatever I had to do, I've done. Now, what's changed since is, to me, absolutely stunning. This is absolutely stunning. One day I was listening to a certain AM radio station in Montreal. That should be nameless, on the 9 o'clock news. And the three items of news at 9 a.m., Terry, where a car went off the highway and had a little crash in the West Island. They were culling deer on the South Shore, and people who went to the San Diego Zoo got a very big surprise because the giraffe gave birth to a baby giraffe. Oh. That was it for the 9 a.m. news. I said, it can't be. Like, I mean, maybe somebody died in the chair. Can you believe that? Like, of all, this was in the middle of chaos in the U.S., COVID, like everything else, like 150 news things, right? And that. So that to me, I was stunned about that. That came to me as a huge shock that was acceptable.
Yes.
That wouldn't be acceptable in a high school radio station on the first day that you did it.
Well,
it just wouldn't be acceptable.
Think of some of the news directors who ran the newsroom at said radio station, and Gord Sinclair or Steve Couch would have said, "What in the name of sweet baby Jesus?"
Those and I was looking at my friend Harold. I said, Did you just hear that? That's it.
Yeah.
They're talking about the traffic. They've gone on to traffic and the weather. That's it. That's all there is.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yes.
That's the whole news of in Montreal and Quebec and Canada and the world. That giraffe, the baby giraffe, muzzle tov. That's fantastic. I mean,
and this is what I'm talking about. The company that owns that radio station has completely abandoned its, in my opinion, its promise to serve the community. When you get a license to broadcast on public airwaves, you have to make some promises about serving the community's needs.
Oh yeah, there's no excuse for that. I totally agree.
Like, you shouldn't be able to run a news radio station with no reporters. No?
Yeah, I mean, just and whoever is there decided, well, these are the three important things for today.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that also is a problem.
So
right?
is that a failure at journalism schools? Do you think?
Yeah, in part, yes, because whoever was there physically in the building submitted it as a newscast,
right?
Which you should never have done, because that's in fact not a newscast, but a bad joke.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right.
So that's one. But also, what about there's also management and of course way up, and where the technique is, and in terms of money making, it's not a bad way to do it, right? Instead of getting more revenue, just stop paying salaries.
Right.
And when you fire this person, do not hire a replacement for that person. His second in command will do two jobs, and you keep doing this down the line, with every line of work. So eventually, it's diminishing returns. But don't forget, also, there's so many millions of other places that people can get. I mean, where do I get my news? Obviously, I don't get my news trying to figure out what's happening at the San Diego Zoo, in the new birth department. Right. So, if I want to know what's breaking news, like a few seconds ago, it's on Twitter.
Right.
I find it on Twitter.
So, what do you think that means, especially in Montreal, for what is a diminishing English community and a diminishing presence of English media, with a thinning newspaper and a news station with no reporters? Like, what happens? What's the end game, do you think?
Well, I think the end game is the switch to, the big companies have figured that out. It's a switch to social media. That's where you're going to get.
That's where
you're going to get it somewhere else. You're going to get where are you going to get the weather? You're going to go to the weather channel, right? You'll have it instantly. Where are you going to get the latest news? You're going to go to Twitter. Where are you going to get entertainment news? And if you want to know what's going on, for instance, at the San Diego Zoo, they have a website. Were you interested in wanting to know if they're new animals? You could go there.
So, do you think, like I sometimes think, if you super served that audience, if you didn't get rid of all of your reporters and you were dedicated to good journalism and decent service of news, I was telling Ted this morning, I remember the day that the Calorie trench flooded.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the building and the news director yelling, "Everybody out!" Meaning all the reporters go scatter and go get news from different corners. And I remember they had reporters at every end of the Jaguar. And I'm telling you, nobody in the city, everybody in the city was listening.
No, that's like ancient history.
It
okay?
is.
Like that
So
would
that-
never happen. No, that's
No,
gone.
but
Never.
so that's not a viable business model anymore.
I don't think it is. And I think
Okay.
whoever came up with that idea, like you just said, we're going to do this. We're going to have all these fantastic people.
Right.
The second he submitted that idea,
Right.
the person that way above him would fire him.
Yes.
So
Gotcha.
he'd be gone. And
Right.
first of all, they don't want a good idea. That's not the point of it. That's like the healthcare system. There's so
Right.
many people are under the delusion here that the healthcare system has to do with the people who are sick.
Right.
Right? Has nothing to do. No, it doesn't. It has nothing to do with that. It's to spend the least amount of money as possible
Right.
and to get you, to train you, and they're very good at it, to stay away from the healthcare system. Right? I remember when my late mom, are we going to? She was not feeling well. I'm going to take her to emergency. I said, why don't we just put her in the hallway, like in the condo? People will pass by and ignore her here, and it's not as noisy, and there's not as much chance of her getting even more sick.
Right.
What difference is it going to make?
Right.
I remember I took her once to the hospital, and I'm showing her the Medicare card. So he's looking at the guy, the triage nurse, is looking at how old, like her age, and he does like this. He lifts his eyebrows, like, she's old. And I said, "Can I have the card back, please?" And I left. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like, obviously, there'll be no help here. Like,
Right.
there's no point here.
So she was too old for him to bother with her.
Yes. One of these things that I also saw, and this has been going on, by the way, this is not a political thing. This has been going on under liberals and PQ and everybody else. I spent a lot of time in the last couple of years before Mom passed in emergency. And a lot of times, the people who work there, in many cases, the doctors and the nurses and the orderlies, are doing a spectacular job under extremely trying circumstances. But at one point, get this, I'm there, you're not in the actual, there's no room, you're in a hallway, next to the hallway where the emergency is. They've changed that since then. Oh, you know what the new idea, how you go to emergency now at the Jewish, there's nobody waiting in the front, in the waiting room.
And you think,
Wow,
oh,
what
wow.
happened? That's fabulous.
Yeah.
No. They hide them. They hide them at all. Oh, no. They hide them all over the place. They take you out of there quickly and hide you in there's 6, 7, 8 different places to wait. But now it's circular and it's much better. But in the old days, I was sitting there in one of these hallways of hallways, and this guy is obviously motioning to a nurse. He has to go to the bathroom, right? And no one is paying any attention. Then he decides, well, if he can't go anywhere else, he'll go right there. And then he takes what developed and flings it with his hands onto the floor.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm witnessing this, never having seen this before, right? And I can't believe it. So I went to the nurse's station and told them exactly what had happened. And after I told the nurse what had happened, I went to the second cup to go get coffee. I came back 45 minutes later. Plus ça change, still there. Yes, with doctors and nurses walking by it on the floor, just walking back and forth. So this is a little vignette, of the healthcare system. It's to train you not to go. And they, like if you get sick, that's not the point of it. That's not the point of the healthcare system, to make people feel better. The people making the decisions about it are bureaucrats, and it has to do with the money. They want to keep it under a certain level, and there's a way to do that. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. I remember interviewing a guy from out west in Saskatoon, and he's a consultant for hospitals, private and public, both, and he said the way they do, get this, you know what they do? They follow a patient. Okay, the patient arrives. So let's go out on the street where the patient's walked in. What does the street look like here? Like, what does he have to step into? Okay, and then into the room. What are the seats like? And what's it like when you get into the room? What's it like when this person speaks to you? They looked at it all from the point of view of the patient. And then you can streamline a lot of things to make it a lot better. And not necessarily at more cost. For instance, when they have all these huge crowds, you can have volunteers who are there. Would you like a juice? Mm-hmm. I'll see how long I think it'll take. Like, just sort of smooth it out. They can have that. That's free. That doesn't cost anything. So they don't do that. They don't bother to.
What? So do you think that these is it you and me living in the past? That that good ideas are just not welcome anymore because it's all about the greed and the share price and the
Unfortunately, yes. Those were the good old days, and they're not coming back.
They're not.
And the younger crowd, they're not concerned about it because they're not sick.
Right,
they're
of course.
fine. They're fine. They don't worry
Are you a
about it.
believer in? Because I was a user of private medicine. Are you a believer in private medicine?
Yes, mixed.
Yes, me too. That's what I had. I was, when I lived in Quebec, I was a patient at Cardiogenics.
They're still playing your commercials, by the way. I heard one today.
I'm glad. I never have had better health care and service than I did when I was in a private medical. And again, that's part of my privilege. I was able to afford that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I have a good friend who runs a clinic called Clinic Medical, which is not private. It's a public clinic, but it's a clinic. And also I get pretty good service there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's very difficult for them. I mean, also the patients are very sick. Patients keep showing up and they're sick. And by the way, the other thing is our healthcare system is in fact flawless. And it's sick people who ruin it. because think about it. If they didn't show up in such huge numbers, everything is very nice.
Yes,
They've got nice chairs, everything's fine. Yeah. But I mean, they just keep getting sick and showing up all the time.
Damn the infirm.
Okay, let's talk about the book. Because I remember, Tommy and I have been friends for many, many years, and I knew the story of your mom. Sometimes we would call your mom when you and I were working on the morning show. I think once or twice she appeared.
No. You're dreaming.
Am I dreaming it?
Every morning man has said that. Every morning man has called, but said that they're going to call mom, and they'd call her and they'd speak to her privately in the afternoon and say that they'd really like to have her on. It's my birthday. It's my this, my that. You have never spoken to her in the morning.
Okay.
Never.
Okay.
Ever.
All right. Okay. You're right about that because she never got up in the morning.
Of course, she got up at the crack of noon. Of course, she would be up in the morning. But she was always very polite.
Yes.
They would send a limo to get her to take her to CFCF television for my birthday thing, right?
Yes.
They can send the limo all they want. They can put like 40 bottles of champagne. She's not answering the door. Of course, she'll say yes. She'll do it,
right?
Because you have to be polite.
Yes.
But I mean, she's not getting up before noon.
She's one of the all-time great characters, and some of the stories, it took you a while to write the book, and you told me you were going to write the book. And then when you told me what the title of the book was, I thought to myself, holy shit, can you call a book that?
And it's your memoir.
Yes.
Tommy's memoir is called Makeup Tips from Auschwitz, How Vanity Saved My Mother's Life. Did I get it right?
You got it exactly right.
And
That's
it's a
correct.
stunning read. It's you can read it one sitting. And it's a wonderful book, an absolute wonderful book.
Now, from the title, you think it's a very serious subject.
Yes.
Her experience in Auschwitz was obviously very, very serious. But the book is about it. Very little is about her experience there. Most of the book is funny stories that have happened with her and me. It's my relationship with her and the dysfunctional relationship that it is, and the funny relationship, taking her to the Academy Awards, taking her to the Cannes Film Festival, making sure she doesn't get arrested at the Cannes Film Festival, things like that. So it's stories like, it's mainly stories like that. But the shocker of it is that this woman who's a teenager walking around with her sister in a little town in Hungary, and saying the two of them are bored, nothing ever interesting happens, and then like a few months later they're on cattle cars hurtling to the death camp of Auschwitz. When she got there, her wherewithal, right? She's like late teens, I think, at that point, or early 20s, and she is on a cattle car, crammed into a cattle car for a day and a half before she finally gets to the destination. Then Joseph Mengele chooses, who's going to the gas chamber, who's going to be a slave laborer, and he looks at her and she looks young and attractive, so he tells her, to go in the work section. And when she gets there, and they're given clothes, they don't bother what kind of what size you are, anything like that. She doesn't like, my mother, right there in the death camp of Auschwitz, doesn't like the way the outfit looks on her. This occurred to her that this doesn't look right. And so she takes her daily ration of moldy bread and exchanges it for needle and thread, and she fixes the dress so that it fits Right. She takes the swill that they serve as coffee and uses it to polish her shoes. She pinches her cheeks so there's a little blush. So during the morning roll call, Irma Greza, on whom they base the character Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS, Irma Greza sees her, says, "You, out of line." And of course, they're saying the prayer for the dead for her. They figure she's a goner. And Greza asks, "How come a Jew looks like that in a place like this?" And so my mother tells her exactly what she did. And so, okay, then you're clean enough and you're going to work for me as my valet, she became her personal valet, tending her garden, cleaning her bicycle, et cetera, doing whatever had to be done as a personal servant. And of course, because of that, the conditions were slightly better than they would have been anywhere else in the barracks. And her sister worked in a section called Canada. The section of Auschwitz called Canada was where all the goods were. Everything they'd stolen, like all the money and the jewelry and whatever people had brought with them on the trains, were all piled up and sorted, etc., and sent off to Germany. And so my aunt was working in that part of Auschwitz.
So named because it was a place of bounty, which was the perception of Canada at the time.
Yes, the perception was there's a lot of wealth in Canada, a lot of wealth here. We'll call it Canada. Anyway, this woman, Grace, actually allowed... my mother asked about her, her parents, her relatives. She asked about the age of her parents. They're dead. They're gone. They're up in smoke. But her brothers and sisters that were younger, they're fine. And she found out for her that her sister was working in the camp, and she allowed them to meet for 5 minutes during the course of that time. But anyway, so Mom survives all that. She gets married. Then there's the Hungarian Revolution. Right, and before we get to the Hungarian Revolution, you can't, in communist Hungary, there's not enough to eat, right? There is for the first 2 weeks. If you want to eat the second 2 weeks of the month, that could be the problem. So Mom is dealing in contraband American silver dollars.
So this is 1956?
No, this is prior to 56.
Okay.
So that's what she's dealing with.
So she's in her early 20s at this point.
So she's got around 300 of them, of these dollars, and she's, making business with this because, like I said, Dad's salary at the department store he was working for at the time did it okay for those first 2 weeks, but we also wanted to eat towards the end of the month. So she's dealing with this, and a neighbor reports her. Right, and so two guys from the government are knocking on the door. So Mom quickly takes all of the money and hides it in my diaper pail. Right. She throws it all into the diaper pail. The guy says, "We heard that you're dealing in American dollars." Yeah, sure I am. Look around. This house looks like I have American dollars. Where did I hide them? What? Probably in here. I hid them right here in the diaper pail. Why'd you look in there? Yeah, look in there right now. You'll find plenty. If you find one, give it to me. So the guy said, big mouth. My father's hair is turning white while this is happening. And the guy leaves.
Did your mother not have any fear at all?
I think that she didn't have any fear after Auschwitz because after her parents had done, whatever's going to happen ain't going to be that bad. Nothing's going to be worse.
Did her sister survive?
Yes,
she did.
Her sister survived, and she had two brothers who survived.
And what was your sorry, Terry? What was your father's experience in the Holocaust?
Oh, his was unbelievable. He was not in Auschwitz. He was in Mauthausen. They met after the war, and
working in the quarry. Was Mauthausen the one with the quarry?
I think so. Yeah, Dad was not working in no quarry.
No way.
He's not the quarry.
I feel bad.
Dad's not the quarry type. Dad was busy telling people that he came from a very wealthy Jewish family of jewelers who had this beautiful shop on one of the main streets in Budapest. So what happens is some of the guards said that, well, if I give you this, could you give me an IOU and I could collect from your parents in Budapest? So I said, okay. So Dad wrote this little IOU for this gold watch that somebody offered him. And the guy who did this told somebody else who came with his jewelry, and then more of them came, and then Dad had gold watches and diamonds and jewels from all these officers who were giving the stuff they'd stolen and giving it to him, hoping to get a lot more money when they went to visit his parents at their jewelry store in Budapest. But there was just one problem. His parents were both dead, and they never owned a jewelry store in Budapest or anywhere else. But by the time they got to this jewelry store that did exist, of course, it was too late. Now, meanwhile, back at Mauthausen, right, somebody was asking about, because my father at one point, I don't know if it was at Mauthausen, but it was when he was part of the Hungarian labor battalions, right, when they used the Jews as slave labor in Hungary. After he'd done this watches and gold business for a while, he was very nervous because how long does it take to get to Budapest and back? So they asked if there were any volunteers to go to the front. So my dad immediately, never were volunteers to go to the front, really. But Dad volunteered.
Now, are we talking about the Russian front?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, to Ukraine. So to get out of there. Now, at one point later on in Russia, Dad and whoever he was with are starving to death. They're on the road and they're starving to death. They're afraid to go in anywhere because what'll happen. So what happens? An elderly Hungarian peasant woman is driving a wagon, and she sees them and she stops in front of the farmhouse and she says that she has to go get something in the farmhouse. Would the two of them guard the wagon for her? Okay. Yes. Of course they would. They guarded the wagon for it, took off on the wagon with the horse, and they find out in the back of the wagon, meat, cheese, food,
my God.
Like more food than they thought existed in all of Hungary at the time. And so that portioning that out was what allowed him to survive till the end of the war.
Wait, how do you feel, Tommy, about, we're telling stories about the Holocaust and laughing. It doesn't feel right.
Well, it reminds me of that movie. Is it called The Last Laugh? Mel Brooks is in it. Robert Cleary, who played LeBeau in Hogan's Heroes and was in a concentration
and the
camp,
question
is in
was,
it.
can you laugh at the Holocaust?
Yes, you're not. The thing is, people have asked me that because there's funny stories in my book.
Yeah, and
Auschwitz.
The way you tell them makes me laugh.
Yes, and the thing is, where did I get that from? I got that from. Why do I have the right to do that? I'll tell you why I have the right to do that. Because both my parents were Holocaust survivors, and that's the way they would often talk. And they used humor in the camp, inside the camp itself, amongst each other. And that's, I think, what helped make them create this resilience and this power for them, that no matter how bad things are, that when you think that life is so bleak and everything is like so absolutely horrific, right? When it's so horrendous, and you say something that's funny and someone else finds that funny, that's has unspeakable value for you at the moment. I'm talking about two people who are in that situation. And there was that humor. We're not laughing at it at all.
Yeah. That's what Robert Cleary says in that film.
And in that film, there's an elderly Jewish woman and her granddaughter, and the granddaughter says that the grandmother used to say to her, "You can't make your bed? For this, I survived Auschwitz."
Yeah. Well, they're trained that. They're trained that. There's a Jewish mother school where. No, seriously. That's the first.
Did your
that's
mother
the first.
do that when you were younger?
Well, of course, they have to. They can't. Otherwise, they can't be mother. They don't get a certificate saying that. They don't get the child's birth certificate till they do that. Yeah.
Tommy, as a I don't know if first generation survivor is the right term, but you're the first generation.
No, I'm called second gen. We're called second gen.
Okay.
The survivors, and then we're second gen.
Most of the survivors are gone now, and within a few years they'll all be gone. What kind of responsibility do you feel, and do people in your position and generation feel, in terms of carrying on the legacy? And to add to the question, what do you see the generations after you? How do you see their perception of the Holocaust? And are they well equipped to carry on the legacy?
I think it is a legacy. It's a burden and a legacy at the same time, because the trauma visited on them is in us as a second generation. There's all kinds of, a lot of the craziness that I have within me is because of the Holocaust. I don't know how to skate. I don't know how to ride a bike. I don't know how to ski. I've never done any of these things because my mother said when my father brought me skates, I said, go ahead. You take him skating. He will go to Kent Park on the ice. He will fall, break his head, crack open the skull and the brain, the pink from the brain and the red blood will seep into the ice, make the ice look red. So as a kid, you hear that. You don't, obviously, you're not, I'm not going skating.
Yeah.
So you were terrified. And when I was like 7 years old, the first snowstorm, you're not going to school. Why am I not going to school? She says, it's too cold outside. What do you mean it's too cold? All the other kids are going. Why are the other kids going? Because Canadian parents don't love their children. So you're taught all this stuff, and this is your family, is your house, so this is normal. Right. So it's this overprotection. You're extremely worried, and if a friend of yours is an hour late, well, schmuck, what's he late for? You're not going to think he's dead, right? But with Holocaust survivors and second generation, if somebody doesn't show up on time, the first thought is the worst thing has happened. Why? Because in the past it has. You know, like they had examples where family showed up late, they're gone. Yeah. So that goes on to the second generation. You're hyper sensitive. You're like, I worry about them all the time. You become overprotective of your parents. You become to parent them. You parent your parents. You're not going to tell them any of your problems. How can they compare to what they went through? So you don't tell them your problems. And you want to protect them because it was so terrible. You want to undo the Holocaust, which you can't. So you want to protect them as much as you can. So that changes that dynamic. And so I think it's our responsibility to say what really happened, because you can see how it's being twisted and denied all over the place, and the anti-Semitism doesn't go down. It gets worse and worse and worse, and just builds and builds. And it goes full circle. No matter what it is, it's always the fault of the Jews. It's the old blood libels are go everywhere. So it's interesting to me because I'm part of a second generation group, and they're telling me they're my age, so they have kids, right? So third generation, and those kids, many of them are very much into knowing about what their grandparents went through and talking about it, and they do want to continue that legacy. And I'm on the board of something called the Foundation for Genocide Education, which makes it mandatory. Which wants to make it mandatory for the education of Holocaust and other genocides, because there are many other genocides as well, to be taught in Quebec high schools. But, one of the things we always used to talk about, if only there's education, if there's education, then it wouldn't happen. Yeah. No. The studies say that, no, you can be very highly educated, and nonetheless there's anti-Semitism. For instance, like there's only one Jewish state in the world, and that's Israel. And does Israel do everything perfectly? Of course not. Can you criticize Israel? Yes. You can criticize Canada, you can criticize the U.S., you can criticize any country you want. Have you ever heard the question, does Canada have a right to exist? Does the U.S. have a right to exist? Does Lithuania have a right to exist? No, seriously, no country. But Israel, I don't know. Israel, I don't know if it has a right to exist. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. So that's the only one. So that continues regardless. So you don't give up. You continue doing what you can to help with it, to help explain, and that's all you can do. But what's happening now, what terrifies me the most is, I don't know if you've seen like what's happening with QAnon, right? Which I was so comforted to think, a little bunch of some wacky people, a few handful of wacky people in the basement. It's not a serious thing. Until I speak to a cousin of mine. You mentioned, which one of my mother's brothers and sisters. One of her brothers survived, right? He had a daughter. This daughter lives in New York, and her son lives in Indiana. Okay, so this is her grandson, right? My cousin. Yeah, it's my cousin's son. Here we're chatting on the phone one day, and he's telling me about the Democrats who kidnap children and use their blood to make themselves look beautiful, right? And and that Biden's never going to be sworn in. This was last year. Right. Biden's never going to be sworn in because Trump is still the the president. And Biden and Obama and Hillary are going to be arrested.
Right.
Right on January the 20th. And he says, Biden's not the same Biden. You see Biden today and 6 months ago? See how different they look? It's an imposter. It's someone who's dressed as Biden. He's telling me all this seriously. Wait, what I've told you so far? This is the good part. Seriously.
So just to clarify, this is your cousin's son who's telling you this.
Yes. Wait, and he's trying to convince me because I'm part of the mainstream media, and we've been fooled. We've been fooled to take this poison, the vaccine, which is an absolute poison and will kill you and make you infertile and change your gender. There's not one thing I'm saying so far that he hasn't said, but I still haven't gotten to the best part. He decides to send me a video of a girl who explains that she's been kidnapped and that she spent a lot of time in this basement, not far from Austin, Texas, she says, where she was there when the Hollywood celebrities would come by and they would order children, 8 years old or 10 years old, made to order, like you wanted a black girl, a white boy, and they would cook them, right? They'd kill them and cook them first and eat them. Here, listen to this. In a sauce of urine and excrement. This is what this is on this video that my cousin's son has sent to me. So I hit the button to stop the video. Now I have to call him and first of all find out, did he really send this, or have I flipped out, or was he hacked, or whatever. And so he tells me, yeah. Couldn't you tell for the way she was talking, how sincere she was, that really happened? So I tell him, Dave, his name isn't Dave, but I'm calling him Dave for the purpose of this broadcast.
Yes.
Dave, let's say it's Friday night and we got tired of having gefilte fish and chicken soup. And we decided for a change, we're going to dine on something different, and we were going to opt for that menu. Would we not choose a different sauce?
What?
But I'm telling it in a way that's funny. But can you
No,
imagine?
I can't.
It's
I can't.
terrifying.
It is.
It's terrifying.
It is.
He believes it, and he sends me. And there's nothing you can do. No articles. Nothing you can do to convince him that any of this is not. And every prediction that does not come to pass. I don't think if you went to Texas to see if John F. Kennedy Jr. was going to show up.
Yeah. They're still waiting.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. But so what do you attribute that to, Tom? A relatively intelligent young man?
I wish I had the answer to that.
A lot of it is this.
Yeah.
There's just these
these
lunatics can all mobilize and connect online.
Yeah, but there is nothing that us sitting here right now, there is nothing ridiculous that we can concoct.
Right.
That they would find too ridiculous to
believe.
Yeah. That if we accused, Trudeau or Hillary or any of them, they absolutely believe it.
Right.
No matter what it was. And one of the people he quotes to me, my cousin's son, is David Icke, right? Mm-hmm. One of the world's foremost Holocaust deniers.
Yes.
Right. I said, hello, do you know who he is? Blah, blah, blah. Well, okay. Everybody has, some skeleton in their cupboard. But I said,
Nobody's
that's
perfect.
true. I may have robbed a convenience store when I was 23 and paid my dues, and then afterwards everything is okay. Yes, that may have happened. But if I've spent, I don't know, my entire life, a couple of decades being a Holocaust denier, you don't think that, counts for something?
Yeah, that's not a red flag.
And I told him, do you know who your grandmother is? Do you know who your you know what happened to her at the end? Oh, well, it's not, those Jewish people aren't really Jewish people.
Oh, my gosh.
It's like down, deeper and deeper.
He's a goner.
Wow.
He's a goner.
Yeah.
Like further down and down and down, further down.
Wow.
Yep. Yes, and I was invited to attend
Were you?
a festive occasion.
Yeah.
A sacrifice?
No, a festive occasion within the family, and none of them are vaxxed. None.
No.
None of them are vaxxed. And will you be coming? I said, no.
Is shit and piss soup on the menu?
No, but he's those are the Democrats.
Oh, right, okay.
That menu,
All right.
that's the Democrats
right,
menu.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
the left-wing menu.
Right, got you. Yeah, because when Ted and I were talking about this last night, when you hosted the talk show, you were, I would say, right of center and open to both sides. Right? Why you could be convinced on an argument.
Some things on the left, some on the right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What happened to that?
Well, first of all, now I was slightly right of center. Now I'm considered a communist.
Yes.
Because of course everything you disagree with is one of two things:
Right.
Nazi, communist.
Right.
Right. Everything is Nazi or communist.
Right.
It's one of the two.
Right.
No matter what. So everybody keeps telling me that Canada is these are. Never mind, these are not my cousins. These are neighbors living in the poverty-stricken area of Montreal, Hampstead, right? And they're saying, "Oh, it's terrible here. It's just like communism."
Yes.
And I said, "Yeah, you're right." I said, "Somebody came in the middle of the night, and Dave. Again, we use a pseudonym. Dave was arrested in the middle of the night, and you don't know when he's coming home." No, that didn't happen. Then it's not communism. It's not communism. Your husband's paycheck, did he get to cash it? Yeah, not communism.
Right.
I said, here's something fun. Why don't you look up communism?
Right.
Even if it's on Wikipedia.
Right.
Look it up somewhere.
Right. And they're telling this to a man who was snuck out of a communist country
That's right.
in the trunk of a car.
Yes, this is communism. It's communism.
Right. That's the other stunning thing is, your parents had the experience of the Holocaust and then had to escape a communist country.
Right. So they saw Nazism.
Yes.
Right. With genuine Nazis,
Yes.
communism with real communists.
Yes.
So they understood that Canada is an absolute paradise.
Right.
When they'd call her up, the census would call up Mom and ask her some questions. What's your nationality? Canadian. I know, but what kind of Canadian? She says, Canadian. Right?
Right.
She was like so proud. And like in
Right.
terms of what an incredible country this is, in terms of the potential you have, et cetera. And so I think we've gone from thinking that a politician has done something that's wrong and stupid, which
Yes.
they have since
Yes.
the dawn of time,
Time,
and they will
right.
continue to do, that makes them mass murderers. The second they do anything you disagree with, now they're a mass murderer. No,
Right.
there might be a complete incompetent moron,
Right.
but they're not guilty of mass murder. They don't eat children. They're not
Right.
rapists. Like they're not all of these things.
Let's talk about, because Tommy and I have had dinner on countless occasions, and Tommy gave me the appreciation of a good martini.
Oh yes.
A real good martini. And one day I think it was a text, it was either a text or an email from you telling me about a particular bartender at a particular bar in Venice, and I can see your lips moisten as I
thirsty.
speak.
But that brings back such a memory. Terry, I spent the entire week thinking, Terry's going to love this because I'm actually going to speak to the bartender, Bruno, and put him on the air with Terry, right? Like live.
And this is a bartender in Venice.
This is a bartender in a bar called the Oriental Bar at the Metropole Hotel in Venice. And first I'm going to tell you how they make the martini, right? You want a martini? I'd like a martini, please, with olives. So, okay. So in some places, some of the local places, they'll pour some vodka into a glass and throw an olive at you. And then there's your martini over here. They roll over there's a wooden wagon that comes over. On the wagon is brass. There's a brass magnifying glass. Behind the magnifying glass is a beautiful tray full of lemons, right? They take a chilled glass, right, and of that they put on the table. Then they pour the vodka into the glass. Now, and they're going to put some lemon. They use a blade, get some of the lemon shavings off, put that in. But what about the vermouth, right? Now, on this table is a golden perfume snifter, right? in this golden glass perfume snifter is vermouth. So what the guy does, he takes this perfume snifter, puts it over your glass and squeezes it so a few droplets of the vermouth float onto the top of your martini. This production takes 5 minutes to behold, right? And it is a knockout martini. Now, I loved it, right? And so I had another one, etc. And then as Bruno's walking by, I said, "Oh, Bruno, it looked so beautiful when you did it, but now, you know, and I'm looking at this empty glass. It doesn't look so nice. Should I have another one?" And he says yes. So I have the third one. Having 3 of these martinis is a very, very bad idea. Walking home at 12:31 in the morning in Venice, trying to get onto a vaporetto that's going up and down and up and down, but you are also going up and down, but not in the same direction. It was, and I got so, I was so out of it, and I got so tired. I insisted on getting on a vaporetto that was going in the wrong direction. So instead of 3 stops, it was an hour and a half, right? When I think the person who drives the vaporetto had to wake me up and said, now I really did have to get off at this stop.
So a vaporetto is like, that's the gondola in the canal? Is that what that is?
No, it's like a water taxi.
It's a water, big water taxi.
Yeah, it's like a water
And
bus,
so I was
actually.
a water bus, yes. And I was at the wrong, like at the wrong place. But anyway, this.
Yeah.
And the bar is magnificent.
You fell in love with Venice.
Yes, but you know what happened? You know, I'm still in a rage about it. Bruno was not there.
Yes.
There was another guy there. We're going to speak to the other guy, and then the connection goes bad.
Yeah, we wanted to tell the story on the radio.
Yes,
yeah.
And I could never tell. I couldn't tell this story.
Yeah.
I've told him. I've told Terry about Bruno. I've told Bruno about Terry. Like I've been working. I spent a week.
Just
in
can't
Venice
get it together.
Working on this. Didn't happen. Venice is just beyond.
Yeah, you fell in love with Venice.
Yeah, and I mean, when you get on the ship, the water bus, and you're looking at the left and right, you don't believe it. Like on the right, you have to do it many, many times because you can't believe that everything is so unspeakably beautiful in every direction.
There's something so special about Italy. It really is. I mean, you could try. You know, we've both traveled and been lucky enough to travel, but boy, there's something special about that country.
Yeah, and it's all so different, by the way. Like Venice, obviously, with all the water and the Grand Canal. Rome is, is an amazing city, the historic part. And then we went to Naples. They say Rome is the heart of Italy. Naples is the soul. And so we went through different parts of Naples, which can be quite iffy in some areas. And then we went to an area called Posillipo. So you have the view of the entire Bay of Naples, all of the buildings, and Mount Vesuvius, and the water in the distance. And the guide, it's one of those things you stick in your ear, one of those double red buses.
Yes.
You put the guide thing in your ear and listen to her blather on about what's on the right and the left. And they're so smart in Italy. They do that, the blather, for 3 minutes, and then there's silence. They give you quite a bit of silence. Then she blathers a little more, and then more silence. Like they know that there's so much to see, you don't want to listen to
that. That is smart.
Yeah.
That is smart.
Yeah. It's just a little touch here, a few touches here on your left. And she says, oh, over there, that's where Virgil wrote his poetry. Virgil? What? He wrote poetry here 2,000 years ago?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So it's amazing. So it was beautiful. It was stunning.
So you'll go back to traveling if we get back there. But in the meantime, are you really, because I consider you, like Woody Allen, a city mouse, right? You know how Woody Allen always made fun of, you're not much of a country guy, right? You don't like to spend the weekend.
Well, let's define country.
Okay.
Now, most people define country as like a cabin in the woods.
Or camping. You're not going camping.
No. Everything has to have a lobby. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. But there must be a lobby. No. Of course not. No. Camping. Never mind. You're way past with camping in the woods. If there's a house with all of the accoutrement, all of the luxuries, etc., but it's down a dark road that looks like Stephen King was here writing something, no.
You're out.
When I like a country place that's on a little town on the Rue Principale of the little town.
Gotcha.
It's a small town. Rue Principale, is not Fifth Avenue, but it's still Rue Principale.
That sounds like a pretty good compromise to me.
Yes. In other words, there's still a little.
You can walk to the boulangerie.
Yes,
you're in the country. You're just in the middle. of what's happening in the country.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like, and also that's very good because people who love the country, they don't want to. No, that's too city. That's too. No. They want something deeper, further and further away. So that's why I like it.
We have to give Tommy a break and tell people about the Mersons, Ted.
you told me a great story about Mark Merson today, and it kind of became a signature line for the commercials that we've done for the Mersons over the years. When Mark said to you one day, just tell them they can, if they got a problem, they can find me at the counter.
Yep. One of the great things about dealing with family businesses, and I was saying this on another podcast, we like to speak for family businesses because, as Mark did say one time, just tell people I don't have to write a letter to head office. I'm in the back. And usually working on the floor when Mark and Bonnie were running the Mersons. And that's the joy of it. A family runs the business. A family has the pride. A family has the ability to make the decisions, to make things right if anything goes wrong, and it doesn't. And I found the Mersons the way you did. I don't know shit from Shinola when it comes to a car. I can replace the windshield washer, but if the Gorflibets is gone,
the Gorflibets,
they're very expensive. You've been told by dishonorable people. The Mersons don't do that. They tell you, look, your front brakes are fine. You don't need to change those. You may have to change the back brakes in the fall, but you're fine. We'll change your oil. It's all about the honesty and the service. That's why generations of Montrealers have been coming back to the Mersons for years.
And that's why they're a third-generation family business, and at some point they'll be a fourth-generation family business because Celso and Kara have two boys who probably, I don't want to speak for them, but I don't see it going any other way, really. And another great thing about being involved in or speaking for a family-run business and becoming not just business associates but friends with them is I got invited to Seder at the Mersons one year.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very
it was nice. Great experience. Really enjoyed it.
People that you can trust, lots of tires for sale, and they can handle anything with your car. MersonAuto.com. Tommy, is there another book coming?
No, there is no.
Did you not enjoy that process?
No, I don't like writing. Yeah. I like having written.
Having written?
Yeah, I like having written. No.
Speaking though, it's such a great speech. I've considered it an honor that I don't have to pay to see you. I can have dinner with you. And that must be something you enjoy doing, don't you?
I love the presentations.
The presentations, the live audiences.
Right. I have a special presentation I do about the book that I've done for audiences large and small, like church groups, synagogues, even book clubs, and I love doing it. It's like a set presentation with sort of set pieces in it, and I'm very excited because I booked something in Phoenix, Arizona. And where instead of for the hour of me doing my presentation for 45 minutes and then questions and answers at the end of it, they're just going to it's just going to be an interview.
Great.
Which is
you don't have to do anything.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it. I don't have to do anything, and it's quite intriguing the way this was set up. I heard this lady whose grandfather was a Nazi who'd written a book on the subject, and she was interviewed by this group in Phoenix. So I wrote to them and say, I really enjoyed that presentation by that lady and the book she'd written. If you're interested, I'd like to do a presentation for you. So they check up on me. They have friends they know in Montreal, so they call 3 friends in Montreal to ask if I'm kosher. In other words, if I'm okay. So I get very nice, I get rave reviews from the 3, so it's very nice. Still not over it. Then her friend calls me and she wants to ask me. She says, "What did you mean? When you said Irma Greza saved your mother's life? She didn't save her life. Mengele didn't save her life." And I said, "Honey, whose mother is it? Yours or mine?" I said, her story, my story, my story. I don't know what your mother did and I wouldn't presume to tell you what she did. I said, "What are you questioning? Are you wondering if I'm pro Irma Greza? Is that, why don't you read the book?" So anyway, now we're fine. We're okay. And we're friendly. But she was like suspicious that because of that phraseology, right? My mother said she saved her life. That doesn't mean she thought she was a hero. She thought my mother told me that Irma was a mass murderer. Right. She saw it, witnessed her killing people. But in terms of that this situation helped save her life was a fact that it's her story. So I thought that was very strange that they, but it shows just the paranoia and I understand it because somebody wanted to interview me about her, right? And I wanted to know a lot about them too. I wanted to know, why do you want to know about that? Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, what's the purpose of this? What are you doing this for? So I can understand it. But I love doing those personal presentations.
Do you think there's I find there's more of a boldness to people now. People will say things to you and question you that they wouldn't have done 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
There's been a tilt in society. There's
nasty, and I also think that you can't go through the stress of a 2-year pandemic, which whatever position you are in it, some people had it easier than others. Some people had to worry about their livelihood. Some people got very sick, right? Relatives who died, some didn't. It had different impact on different people, but it stressed everybody.
Yeah,
nobody got through the last 2 years saying, "Well, what a lovely these 2 years have been quite a breeze." This has been a picnic.
Remember, ça va bien aller.
Right. So,
and we're all in this together.
Right. So in other words, and also going through sort of tough times for a couple of weeks, right? A couple of months. Yeah, it makes you resilient, etc. But when it was going on into the second year, people are stressed out. It's like PTSD. It's traumatic for something to go on so long. We had the ice storm. That was very traumatic, but it was a few weeks, right? Yeah. And it wasn't all over the world. It didn't encompass everything. It somehow this encompassed everything. So I think that it had an impact on humanity, and we're more on edge. We're more nervous and more on edge.
I can't imagine being on the radio today. You can't say anything publicly without being crucified for something.
All right. Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Here's a pointed question for you. Does the English community survive in Montreal?
Yeah, I think I think it will survive. It depends what you mean. In terms of, will a lot of the people stay here? Yes. Will they speak English? Yes. Most of the younger generation of Anglophones is perfectly bilingual. I don't think we'll ever lose our English.
No.
Right? And that we'll forget how to speak English. I don't think that's going to happen. Not our generation and not our children's or grandchildren's generation. So I think it's fun. And I think it's far less of an issue. People were warning me, you're going into the Quebec countryside. They don't like... I don't buy it. They don't like Anglos over there. They don't like Jews over there either. What? And I didn't find that. No. I'm hypersensitive.
Yeah. You have
antennae. Yeah. Nothing. People were nice and friendly wherever I went.
People generally are nice and friendly.
Yeah. I like to... I have to... I'm going to say hi to one more sponsor. I'm going to ask you to tell the chewing gum story, okay? Yeah. It's one of my favorite stories. I quickly want to thank our friends at Matelas Bonheur. They're a mattress company, but they're much more than that because they're a family. Again, it's a family-run business. And there are lots of places you can buy mattresses. There's a lot of places you can go into. You go around the washing machines and the lazy boys, and you lie around on a mattress until somebody comes to see you and ask you what you're doing. But at Matelas Bonheur, you get welcomed as soon as you walk through the door. There's always somebody to welcome you at any of the 18 locations, and you'll be warmly welcomed and asked what you're looking for. You'll never be pressured. You can flop around on as many mattresses as you like. You can go in there and just get a really, really good pillow. You can go there and get new linens. You can go there and find a mattress to fit your budget, whether your kids are going to college or you're moving, or it's time for a new mattress because you've been sleeping on the same old mattress for a very long time. I did that. I was on a mattress for about 4 years longer than I should have been, and they're so up on the technology of mattresses and sleep, and there is sleep technology, believe it or not, and they'll be able to guide you through it. They're really.
I'd like to be a sleep technologist. Where do you sign up for that?
Where do you sign up for that job? Yeah.
Well, time to go to work.
Matelas Bonheur have grown to 18 locations in and around the greater Montreal area. You can visit them online, matelasbonheur.ca. I don't know why your mother's stories, Tommy, have always they've just stuck with me, and everything. All of them have been. They're so wildly entertaining. Her love of Liz Taylor, and all of the things that she used to do when you were younger. But the chewing gum story always stuck with me, and I'd like you to tell that story.
Yes, this is when I came to Montreal for the first time. I didn't speak a word of. Sorry,
sorry to interrupt. We should tell people quickly, or as slowly as you want to, about your escape. I mean, that's a harrowing tale.
Yes. I was like 5 years old, and Mom says we're going on an adventure.
And you're living in Hungary at the time, which is behind the Iron Curtain.
Right. We're living in a tiny little apartment in the center of Budapest, and Mom wakes me up in the middle of the night and says we're going on an adventure, which I thought was unusual, it being in the middle of the night. We'd never gone on an adventure in the day, never mind at night. And she says I can bring one toy. No, I should bring some toys that I like. So there's two that I like. I really like this mandolin, and I really like this wooden streetcar. And then after conferring with my father, they come to the conclusion that that's too much to carry. We're going to take only what's very, very valuable. And since Canada's paved with gold, there's no point in bringing any gold or silver because that's on the street here. So Dad decides that what is very valuable in Hungary at the time must be very valuable in Montreal as well, which is fake plastic. A roll of fake plastic. Okay. Right? So just think of a roll of material. Right? Yep. So he's bringing that, so I can't bring two toys. I can only bring one toy. So the wooden streetcar doesn't do anything. So I bring the mandolin. So we get into a car. For some reason, in the car, usually I sit in a seat, but this time I was in the trunk of the car for this adventure, and I had to keep quiet in the trunk. They drive, I don't know where they're driving, but they're driving somewhere. We get out, and then we're walking through a muddy field where this guy, Jula, who is our guide, had spent most of the day planting mines in this field between Hungary and Austria, near the border. And as a sideline, in the evening, he would ask people to pay him to guide them through
because he knows where the mines are not.
The mines are, so he knows where you can walk. So we're following Jula, and there's Russian soldiers all over the place. And I decide I have my mandolin. I'm going to strum a few notes. Jula is not pleased with this and takes the mandolin, smashes it over the back of my head. I pass out. I'm carried the rest of the way. Right, my father has to pay whatever money he had for somebody to carry me because he's got this big roll of fake plastic that he's not about to give up on. And a third of the way through, Jula says that he's feeling tired and he doesn't want to continue. So everybody convinces him he has to, and we give him more money. So Jula is less tired now, and we continue going a little further. And once again, just within eyesight of Austria, again he's exhausted. Fatigue once again sets in. We have to give him every penny. Like all the people in that group, small group, had to give him every last cent. So we arrived with a broken mandolin and a roll of plastic. So that's how we escaped across the border. My mother, right, fell in one of the areas where there was barbed wire. So she was bleeding, and a doctor, as soon as they got over where the Austrians were and they had people treating refugees, they helped treat her and give her antibiotics. So she's just crossed the border like that. She's got a serious wound from barbed wire on her leg, and her brother-in-law, who paid for this entire operation, right, for us to escape, had booked us into the Hotel Schönbrunn in the heart of Vienna. So there's music. So Mom hears the music and doesn't want to lie in bed. She wants to go downstairs and hear the music. And when her favorite song comes on, right, she wants to dance. This is like hours after the wound on the leg, because it's such beautiful music, you understand. And what happens while we're at the Hotel Schönbrunn is she loses her. Her brother-in-law buys her a beautiful red leather purse, right? And she's very proud of this purse, but she loves it, right? And then we stayed there for a few days before we took a plane to Moncton and Iceland, Greenland, Moncton, and then Montreal. So buys her this purse. I went back to Hungary about 20 years ago, and my mother says, "Go ask the Schönbrunn if they found the purse." I said, I think 39 years later, Mom, I don't ask anyway. And they didn't. They did not have the purse. Anyway, so we get to Montreal.
Right.
So I don't speak any English, right? And the first day of school, the teacher's talking, Miss Wadman, I remember her to this day, and everybody has a pencil and they have paper, and Miss Wadman is talking, and they're listening, and they're writing something. I don't understand what she's saying. I don't know what they're writing. So I look next to me, and I see this girl there, and she's writing M-A-R-I-E. So, okay, well, I don't know what that is. So I'll do the same thing. M-A-R-I-E. I write that on my piece of paper and hand it in. So there are two pieces of paper that were handed in by Marie, and mine was not there. Again, this was at Bancroft School,
Right.
which right near Beauties, which we called Bancroft Snack Bar at the time on St. Urban and Mount Royal, and I didn't have too many friends at recess, etc. And I saw kids chewing gum. Right, I didn't know what that was, and then we're walking down the street, and I see something pink on the ground. And I said, "What they're chewing is pink." I said, "It grows. It grows on the ground here in Canada." So I picked up a piece of gum from the floor, picked it up, and started chewing it. And then I would do this on a regular basis. On the way to school, I'd see if there was any gum on the floor and pick it up and chew it. Until one day, Mom was taking me to school.
Right.
And I stopped. I said, "Oh, there's a nice piece." And she said, "What are you doing? Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?" And then she explains everything to me and buys me a pack of Wrigley's or whatever. I said, "This is much sweeter than this is much sweeter than the stuff than
the gum that grows.
The grown gum isn't nearly as good." Now, one last quick story about when Miss Wadman one day I forgot my lunch, and I was crying, and she was very upset. She said, "Let me take you to the Beauties." It wasn't called Beauties then, Bancroft Snack Bar. So we get there. She said, "Would you like a hot dog?" So I'm thinking, well, it can't be. It's obviously not a dog. Like even in Canada, they're not cooking dogs. It's not like a hot dog. It's probably the name of a candy. Must be the name of a candy, like a funny name for a candy. I said, "Yes, I like a hot dog." So she orders it, and the hot dog arrives. Now I see what it is. Now it's meat, and it's not kosher. If I eat it, I'll die. Right. I'm 6 years old eating gum from the street. What do I do? Right. So I don't know what to do. I ask her what that is on the ceiling, and while she's looking up there, I throw it on the floor. And she asked me if I'm still hungry. I said, no. So anyway, that's part of my indoctrination, how I got to learn to speak English. And it's very interesting. My father wanted to send me to a yeshiva, a Jewish school right away, and my mother said no. He says, first he's going to go to a regular school where he's going to learn English till he speaks it perfectly. Then you can send him to it.
Right.
And that's exactly what I did.
Wow.
And I think I learned English pretty well. I ended up doing pretty well with English.
I think your stories, especially in light of what goes on today, are a stunning example of the roads aren't paved with gold, and we don't need a roll of plastic, but it's a pretty damn good country, and it's created quite a life for all of us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's not communist.
No, and in
can't remember a minefield in anywhere.
And also, Mom and Dad had no connections of any kind for anything I've ever done in my. Oh yes, and that's not exactly true. Dad did have a connection for my very first job, which was working for $1.25 an hour at Tornado Plastics, about a block from where we're recording this. Right, and I worked there for 2 days. And on a plastics assembly line.
Right.
And every now and then I didn't know what to do exactly, and it would break down. And I was the hero of all the Greek ladies on the assembly line, because when the machine broke down for 2 hours, they could have a break. Mom, who'd forced my father to get me this job, told me that I had to quit on day 3 because no son of hers was getting up at 5:30 in the morning. Which is why I always had the greatest admiration for you guys, who did in fact get up much earlier than 5:30. One of the worst things about working with morning men, I can tell you, is you can never complain to them about getting up at 5:30, 6:30. Not you can't say a word. You can't say a word to them about it.
You weren't a fan of it though either. Eh? I mean, I loved every minute of every year that I hosted morning shows, but damn it, I loathe that alarm clock.
First of all, I can't even imagine what you went through. I loathed it at 7:30.
7 o'clock,
7:30. Yeah. I had a mic installed in my house after a while, so I don't have to do this. Enough of this. But no, I don't know how you did it.
Well, listen, an alarm clock is shitty no matter what time it goes off. It's no more fun at 7:30 than it is at 3:30.
I would venture to say an alarm clock at 3:30 is shittier than an alarm
You
clock.
think? Yeah?
Yes, I think, yeah. Am I right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I
There's more
agree with
pain.
you.
There's
Yeah,
more
there's
pain.
more pain at 3:30. I don't know why. But
I think the pain just lasts longer at 3:30. For me, anyway.
Tommy, you've been so generous. I don't know how long we've been talking, and I could
2 hours, I think.
Really?
I think this
Whoa.
is this is by far the longest episode we've done.
Longest episode.
Wow.
But worth every minute.
It went so quickly.
Every single minute.
I thought it was
It's
an hour.
you know, I love you to death as a good friend, a person, broadcaster. I'm just so excited you said yes, and I'm so excited to see you. I can't.
Great chatting with you.
Can't thank you enough.
I think my favorite moment and biggest takeaway from this 2 hours is that Tommy's father was not the quarry type.
We should say thanks to our title sponsor.
Jaguar Land Rover Laval, jaguarlaval.ca, landroverlaval.ca.
Yeah, and our other sponsors, the Mersons, UPS Store Canada, Matelas Bonheur, and of course, Poseidon. You're a very patient man. Thank you.
Oh, don't worry about it. I do this for a living.
Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover Laval, where the luxury is unmistakably British. But nobody wears a top hat or a monocle